Woodworks. Got a little table here, mission oak table called a TABOURET. It came to me just like this, all in pieces. It's a small hexagonal shaped table. Here's the top. And it came to me all in pieces like this. The corners were all broken out. They were originally splined together and all broken out and split. And so far I've just sanded off the original finish. It was all kind of moldy in very poor condition, so I just lightly sanded off the original finish. Now I'm going to try to get this back together. The customer said come up with whatever solution you need to do to reassemble it. And I came up with a solution, and I gave him a sketch of what I was going to do. And he said, okay, this is the sketch that I came up with. I sent this to the customer. He lives out of state. And these are the sides here. And what I'm going to do is square off the corners, just eliminate the miter in the corner, since they're all broken. And the interior dimension of each side of the hexagon is 8 1/4 inches. So what I'm going to do is make a plywood top and bottom, 8 1/4 inches on each side of the hexagon, and just fasten the sides to the plywood, so that'll get the table back together. And then to cover the corners, I'm going to make a little pine filler to fill in the little triangle. Then a little bullnose cap of 1/4 sawn white oak. And that'll be very easy to touch up and match the original oak. I don't have a hard line right there. I can very easily mask off and touch up that little piece of molding to blend it in with the sides. And I think it'll make a nice decorative corner. Now on the top, originally it was hinged and had a small latch. But the customer said if it doesn't work out with the hinges and latch, that's not a big deal. We'll just fix the top in place. I'm not sure it's going to work out with the solution I came up with as far as hinging it, but I'll address that when I get to it. And also on the top, I've glued the joints together. They were splitting apart. There are 2 glue joints here that were splitting apart, and I glued those together. And once again, just sanded the old finish off. Okay, now I want to trim down one bad edge. I went to the bandsaw and trimmed that off. Now I'm going to use the inside edge of the original miter as a reference and sand down to that line. Okay, now I have one edge straight, once again following the inside corner of the original miter. Okay, now I'm going to go to the table saw and rip them to width to 8 1/4 inches on the inside edge of the opposite miter. Okay, I laid out a template for the top and bottom panels. Each corner is 120 degrees. And I had to lay this out a few times. As you can see, I erased the lines a couple times. I kept getting a slight error when laying out the angles, and it got a little off on the opposite side. Even after cutting out the panel, I still had to make a few adjustments on the sander to get all the sides in even length. Now I'm just going to trace it out onto the top and bottom panels, and I'm using 3/4 inch birch plywood. Alright, now I'm ready to start assembling the table. And I made some cleats to hold the bottom panel. The original cleats were much smaller, and they're up a little bit higher. So I'm going to move the cleats down. And I'm going to place them about a 1/2 inch above the cutout. The cleats are 8 1/4 inches to match the sides, and cut each corner at a 30-degree angle. Okay, now this was a little tricky getting this assembled. Just had to stand up two sides and then put a clamp across. Okay, now I'm going to make the filler pieces for the corners, and it's a 60-degree angle. So I had to think a little bit. I ended up tilting the blade at 30 degrees, ran the board through once, got a 30-degree angle, and then flipped it over, adjusted the fence a little bit, and ran it through again and got 60 degrees. Okay, in the bottom I made a small clamping block, the same angle, 30-degree angle, so I could hold the legs in the right position while the glue sets up. Okay, here it is all clamped up. I'll let this sit overnight. Okay, I'm going to plane down those pine fillers. Tap down the nails so I don't hit them. And then do all the final sanding on all 6 sides. Okay, got all the sanding done on the sides. I'm going to screw the top on instead of trying to hinge it. As it turns out, nothing even remotely lines up. Got it centered as best I could. And all the overhangs are all different on each side. And these hinge mortises don't even remotely line up. These are way off. I got the sides of the mortises lined up where they were, but as you can see, this is completely out of alignment. I'm not sure why that didn't line up, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do a fixed top. And I've got to screw the top on now before I put the moldings on. I'm going to put the screws down through this pine strip down into the top to secure the top, and then cover that with the molding. Okay, now I'm ready to make the moldings. Made a 5/8 wide bullnose, which is what I was originally planning on doing, but on a couple spots it's not going to quite cover, especially on this corner. There's still some of this split edge that's visible. I didn't want to rip down the sides any more than I had to. So this one corner had badly split out in this direction, and it's still visible. so the 5/8 is not going to quite cover that. So I made a 7/8 inch, and it is going to cover that. But what I have to do is go with the hand plane again and widen out this flat spot to about 7/8 of an inch, so that the molding will sit flat. It is right now, it kind of sticks out in each side here a little bit. Now I'm making the moldings in oak. I ripped down some 7/8 inch strips of 1/4 sawn white oak, and I'm using a 3/4 inch cove bit in the shaper, and it's taking 2 passes to make the molding. Since I ran the molding in 2 passes, there's a slight ridge in the middle, and I'm just going to clean that up on the belt sander. Then the final step is to rip the strip in half and get 2 pieces of molding. Then, as stated earlier, I'm going to widen out that flat spot. I decided to get the power plane out, and it makes a little bit of a flatter surface. And then just a little touch up with the hand plane in certain spots. Now I'm going to drill some pilot holes for the screws, going down at an angle through the corner. Then from the side, drill a countersink. When I was laying out the top earlier, I penciled in around the base and then sealed it with a couple coats of shellac. And the final step is to install the bullnose molding on the corners. Alright, down in the finishing room, I've already started putting a couple coats of shellac on and did a scuff sanding, and now I'm going to start touching up the molding. Alright, a standard procedure is a little bit of a red mahogany dye to start. Then this is something new I've started, using a little bit of a black glaze. I learned this from another video. Helps to darken up the pores and make the pores look dark. Then I was dipping into a little bit of black pigment just to darken up the molding a little bit more. Then followed up with the same black glaze over the entire piece. It helps to enhance the mission color. And as you can see at this point, the new wood matches up really good with the old. That's just using the black glaze. Then following the black glaze, I did a couple more coats of shellac, and now I'm doing another glaze coat. This with my standard half mahogany, half walnut glaze. Okay, the little mission table is all done. Let's do a quick review. Okay, the glue joints were split apart here on the top. I re-glued those. And then, of course, sanded the original finish off. And all of the corners were broken and split. It was originally a mitered corner. So I came up with the solution of doing a bullnose corner. And I think that really came out great. Adds a nice decorative effect to the corners. And fits right in with the mission style. And just left the original hardware on here. Otherwise, I'd have had to patch this hole. Mortised in here, I would have had to patch that. So I just left the hardware on. And the customer stated it was okay to just do a fixed top if the